Oh, you ready?
Oh, we should start.
Yeah.
Just playing domino drop.
Oh, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Green tea. Trying new things.
That's your once a year thing.
So we've been thinking about over the last couple weeks, because this is something that I hear about often when I'm working with couples at church, is how do I keep from becoming just good roommates?
So have we become just good roommates?
Well, I hope not. So what we're going to talk about today is some red flags.
26 years of being a good roommate. What are the red flags?
What are the red flags?
So you don't get to this long in your marriage and then be like, oh crap, we are just good roommates.
The red flags have been there all along.
So first red flag, and this one I can relate to, because, and I don't know about you, but I constantly have a running to-do list. I wake up in the morning and I greet my husband by...
I will come downstairs for breakfast and Andrew's like 17 things. And I'm like, can I just have a second? Anybody relate with that?
It's the way I was
So
made.
the red flag is being exhausted or busy.
Exhausted or busy. Like you always have something to do that takes precedent over your relationship with your spouse. That could be your kids. That could be work.
Yeah.
That could be chores. Oh my goodness, I think I'm the only one who washes. I know I am.
You wash
I am
what?
the only one that washes the cupboards, like the outside cupboards of...
Who washes a cupboard?
I do.
Yeah, so that's definitely... So I would say I don't relate with this a ton because... But I will say this last season, this fall, I have been as busy with work as I've ever been. I was thinking, oh man, kids are going to college. I'll have so much time to myself.
We'll have all these date nights.
Pickleball and date nights is all it's going to be. And it's been a really, really busy. So then it's easy for your relationship to be on the back burner. And it's easy for the urgent to take precedence over the important.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's not even like that, it's a sin, right? It's like these are four things that it's not like they're sinful.
Busyness
it's just,
isn't necessarily.
No, but it's just that to be aware of. I was thinking of how just subtle these four things can be, and then just reminded how Satan there's just a thief that comes in the night, and before you know it, you have, you've kind of lost connection with your spouse, not because of something bad. It's just because you've put other things.
Yeah, and that could be 26 years in. That could be 6 months in. Mm-hmm. You know, after the excitement, the newlywed phase is worn off. Like that could be at any point.
What's the second one?
Second red flag:
I think you wanted to talk
lack
about this one.
of sex or physical intimacy. You might ask, how much is too much? That's not a thing. Like if it's not every day. I'm just kidding.
But I'm busy.
What a dream. So this might actually not be a red flag on its own. This might be a red flag because of that busyness or lack of energy, just being overwhelmed. But if this is happening where it's just like, yeah, we're not finding time to be intimate, finding time to connect in that way, absolutely, that is a red flag. You got to pay attention to that.
And that's something I think we'll probably have another episode just talking about it, but because that's something just communication wise was not something that we did, or it continues to be something that is not easy to talk about.
Yeah, 26 years in, we are real awkward. Having awkward conversations.
Well, I literally reflected on this the other night, and then I'll move on. But I'm like, what has taught us? What has taught us intimacy? I'm going to say, maybe we'll delete this. Homer Simpson has taught you. And romantic comedies have taught me.
Homer Simpson knows how to put the moves on Marge, and she always responds. That's necessarily true. And rom-coms have...
rom-coms have put a lot of pressure on men.
Rom-coms or rom-coms?
Rom-coms.
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 Romantic comedies. Emotional pornography.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
All right, third red flag, lack of purpose in your marriage. Not sure what purpose your marriage serves. This is kind of new for us to think about for sure.
We talked about this just the other night, and I remember in our vows, the one thing, because we both worked at camp together, so we were serving Christ together. And I remember wanting to have that in our vows at the end, So I was telling you, I'm like, well, I always
wanting to have what in our vows?
serving Christ together.
Okay.
And so that was one thing that I remember being like, oh, like I can't wait to serve Christ with you.
Yeah.
I don't know what that was supposed to look like.
Period.
That's all I got.
I think a lot of times when you ask people like purpose in marriage, a lot of times you hear, and we've talked about this before, companionship. For me, companionship should be an outcome of your marriage, not like the purpose. Because if like we hit a rough patch and I'm not getting companionship or feeling that from Andrea, I'm gonna go find companionship somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that that's the right purpose. Yeah.
I was thinking other things. I like one thing that I think was easy when you have kids, right? Or if you have kids, that's something that a lot of married couples will pour their marriage into is, well, our purpose is to raise our children. And then you almost lose a connection with your spouse because once your kids, they leave, then you're like, oh, well, now what? And so that's something huge. Or your career.
Career
Can take that purpose.
Yeah, I want to provide for my family. I want to climb the corporate ladder, whatever that looks like. And then at some point, when all that's stripped away, like what are you left with?
So hold on, question. So have you ever, like when you think of lack of purpose, has there ever been like oh my, I'm going down this road and I need to kind of back up because I'm noticing I'm pouring more into this one area
than our relationship? I think it's, for me, I think for both of us, probably it was easy to do that with kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it wasn't so much like the nurturing and the raising. For me, it was like my girls became the outlet for having fun with, and almost like,
what is that saying about me, dude?
But it was like, like we've talked about this.
We have.
Like when I sit next to them on the couch and we show each other funny TikToks, they laugh. Andrew's like, why don't you show me any of those? So I showed you some and you didn't laugh once. And I'm like, what do you mean, why don't I show you those? But I do think with my kids, with my girls, they kind of took that place of, I think back to our dating life, like it was fun and we laughed and we did all these things. And kids can take that focus, and that was probably something, I don't know that was my purpose, but they certainly took that part of.
So do you find reels now that make me laugh?
Still, not really. We've got different tastes.
That's okay. All right, so just your lack of purpose, and so.
Yeah, that can be a red flag. If your marriage has no purpose that you can put your finger on, like, hey, this is why we exist as a couple.
This number 4 to me was kind of an aha, like, oh yeah, this is totally relatable. And that is just acceptable neglect.
Us on our phones when we started out the video today, like sitting next to each other, not being together, neglecting each other, but it's acceptable because we're next to each other. And we're on our phone, right?
Yeah. And you see people, like even when you go out to eat, it's like instead of talking to one another, they're on their phones. So I think there's this culturally acceptable neglect when it comes to our phones or our iPads, our computer. Like I can work, to me, acceptable neglect, because again, I can use that as an excuse to be like, well, I need to get this done. Yeah. And there's a deadline or there's something. I would feel less stress if I worked on this. And then I can give you the leftover time.
Right.
I think that's interesting.
Another one would be like hobbies. Like mine is pickleball. I love pickleball. Nothing wrong with it in and of itself. However, if pickleball took 3 to 5 nights a week and that took precedence over you, well, it's acceptable because, hey, I'm getting exercise and I'm connecting with people and all those things. But it's taking precedence over you. So that could be a red flag if you're doing that for more than
one thing I think you've done well with that is just asking, like, especially if we know, we usually talk about our week because you have church things at night, and then if I'm meeting someone for coffee, and then you, like with pickleball too, you will always ask, hey, Ann, like, I've got this coming up, I was invited to this, and you are very respectful and honoring in that conversation. And so Nice job. But I
Nailed
mean,
it.
I think some
Nailed it.
people too, it's just that like, oh, do I need to ask my spouse for permission? And it's more of like you
It's less permission
than
as
it
is
is
respect.
Yeah,
I
that's
think.
what I was thinking. So,
I think one of the hobbies that is like you just see in this part of the country, like for guys, like it could be golfing,
Or
it could be
girls.
or girls, it could be hunting.
Mhm.
Like you just see like, hey, like from October to the end of January, just I'm out.
Mhm.
Again, nothing wrong with any of those things, but if they win consistently, if they are the most important thing over your relationship, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking too, friends, like, oh, I'm going to meet the girls, or I'm going to have a girls' night or a girls' weekend. I haven't done much of that, but I do think investing in people is so huge for me, and so that would be something.
It could be something, right? We wrote this one down: house projects or chores. Not typically an issue for me. Andrea asked me to do a house project, and I tell her it's going to get done. Quit asking me about it every 6 months. And so, it'll get done within 2 to 3, maybe 5 years. But that can absolutely be a thing. Anything that if you're like running away, if you're hiding and like pouring into this because you don't want to deal with a conflict or something that's going on in your own relationship, all those can be red flags.
Okay, so
Those are the 4.
Those are 4 things. What did we say? You're too busy. You have just the lack of intimacy, lack of purpose.
Yeah.
And the 4th one, just talking about, is just that acceptable.
neglect.
That's what it
Like,
was.
what are those
Acceptable
things that
neglect.
what are those things that are just like, yeah, we're okay with, but we're actually neglecting?
Yeah. We always are thinking, well, what instruction from the Bible helps us to realign ourselves? And
Yep.
the verse that
2 Corinthians 9:6. Remember this: whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows generously will reap generously. Sow meaning to plant, reap meaning to harvest. This is like whatever. This is that old adage, like you're going to get out of it what you put into it.
I was thinking this is a good verse just in the new year. I know this is, everybody talks about, hey, what's your plans? What's your thoughts for, or at least this is me, not so much you. Sorry.
I don't have plans.
Well, I'm like, hey, have you thought of your goals? You're like,
Kind of like the Joker. I don't have plans. Guys, you get that reference.
And so, but I think this is a good reflection time too, to just think about the work that you put into your marriage. You will reap the benefits from the time that you spend in conversation and the time that you spend intentionally with each other, and facing the conflict or facing the hard, and having just some good time to reflect and then challenge one another.
Yeah, and it is work. Like we both grew up on the farm. Planting season is hard. So like both of our dads, planting season was a long time, was a lot of work. And so it takes work even to sow, to plant, to prepare for. But what you get out of that is there is a harvest that you're going to reap out of that can be really, really good. And if you're not willing to put in the work, of course these red flags are going to come up. Like I don't know why we would be surprised by that.
And isn't it good? It's good to talk about these things. And then I think about even with our other friends, like couple friends, it's like, how do we encourage not just ourselves, but you and our friends? Like you want everybody to have a great marriage and to thrive. So we're hopefully encouraging you.
We're giving it a shot. All right. So what questions do we have?
Okay. So we have two questions to think about. Well, one is just a reflection. Again, I think we did this earlier, but what's the purpose of your marriage? And so just go back to that, reflect on that, and just really think through, okay, 2025, what is our purpose? And where do we want to go forward from here? And then the second one.
Does your relationship ever win? And what we mean by that is, does your relationship with your spouse win over the other things? Does your relationship ever win over time with the kids, or over your hobby, or over whatever, over work? Man, that would be it. That's a huge one. Again, not for me so much. But does your relationship win out and take first place over other things?
Okay. Have you ever had a time where you've made a choice Can you think?
Yeah.
I'm putting you on the spot.
So like I can think of, I joke about like work's not a thing, but that is, I remember when we moved to Sioux Falls and like that first 6 months, like becoming the pastor at this campus and like just a lot going on, getting to meet people. There's just a lot going on. I remember late in that fall, there was something going on and I just told Adam, our lead pastor, I'm like, Andrea has to win tonight. Like I gotta go spend some time with her. And it was, I can't remember if it was like a groups thing or whatever, but we had it covered. There was gonna be people there. I didn't have to be there. And so I remember that being a specific time where like, okay, our relationship has to win because it's been a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Can you think of a time?
Yeah, like sometimes I'll think of just intimacy. Like I'm like,
Oh yeah.
but just where I may be exhausted, but just knowing, again, like our relationship needs to win.
When you look at all this, I mean, is it really that much of a sacrifice? Happy New Year, everybody. What's the purpose of your marriage, and does your relationship ever win? Those are the two questions to talk about this week.
Mm-hmm. Have a wonderful week.
See you next time.
Bye.